Good evening, IL family, and welcome back to your Inclination Life broadcast here with Lady Timiel / Coach Timiel, where we talk about positive living via simple truths. I want to say happy Monday to everybody, and I pray that it's been a great start to your week. So tonight we are going to talk about the power of patience. This conversation probably is something that has just formalized into a topic over probably the last few days, because it's something that kind of runs rampant in my mind, and it comes off of a lot of topics. One of which I can say even on my ride home came to mind, because as I was driving in traffic, one of the things that is very humorous to me about individuals that are in traffic, especially when we are hitting like the prime times of traffic in our areas, is that you have these people that are dashing in between everybody. And it's so funny that they either get like one car ahead of you or two cars ahead of you, and eventually you pass back by them because they're stuck in traffic. That's one idea of a person that's speeding ahead. Then I kind of thought about the people that maybe God has spoken something to them. Maybe they've had something, they've heard something in their private time with God through their prayer, or they've heard of something prophesied to them, and they immediately go into trying to make that prophecy or that vision or that thing that God has told them that would occur into their life begin to manifest in their life without actually being patient enough for the process that it is that God has given them. I also put here people with this drive and grind mentality. I've been in probably most of these categories that I'm talking about on tonight. And the people that feels like they always have to be on their grind in order to achieve something. They're never at a place where they actually take a moment to take a break, take a moment to step back, take a moment to actually rest, take a moment to actually take a Sabbath. We feel like we are these energizer bunnies that have to keep going in order to get to the places and to the things that it is that God has given us. And then the final one I put here is the person with the I want it now mentality. Now, I used to be, this one I can say for sure that I used to be the I want it now. If there was something that I wanted it right then and there, and I didn't want to wait on it. And it used to be a going joke with my husband and myself, because I would say, I want it now. Like I was like a little kid that said, I want it now. You know, I never wanted to wait on the thing that I already knew that I was going to get, but I would just want to push the time a little bit faster. I would just want to go a little bit faster. But over time, and thank God for God being God, thank God for process, thank God for maturity, I can say that I have learned the value of patience. I have learned the power of patience. I have learned the significance of being a patient being, the significance of this being a very important part of your character. I have seen the health in learning how to have a patient attitude versus one that's always got that go get it attitude. There's nothing wrong with you being a person who is proactive and going towards the things that it is that God has given you. There's nothing wrong with you being wise with your time, but there's a big difference when you lack the very patience, when you lack enough patience that when God says wait, when God says hold on, when something comes in your life to halt the process, that you don't know how to respond because you're so used to pushing the button, you're so used to pushing the gas. So I'm going to talk a little bit on tonight about the power of patience. And so when we learn about patience, the definitions of patience says that we have the capacity to accept or tolerate delay, trouble, or suffering. Guess what? Without getting angry or upset. So there were three things in there. It said we had the capacity. And when something has the capacity, it means that it has the ability to hold something. And I thought about most of us, especially if you have not learned this or allowed this to be a part of your character, then most of us, a lot of people have very little capacity when it comes to patience. They're not very patient. They cannot wait. And so there were three things that they said you could tolerate. You could tolerate delay. And so this delay could come from something that you did not plan. Delay could be from God saying, hold on, wait a minute. This delay could come from so many things. Trouble, things that we didn't plan for, things that just come in life that says, okay, that capsize us in life. Sometimes we're, especially, have you ever been in a process where you felt like you were on your so-called grind, or you were just going towards something, and then something came in your life and it capped you off, and all of a sudden trouble has come in, and now it's halted it the very process you're on. Well, if you lack patience, this will throw you completely off course. This will cause you to become angry. This will cause you to become frustrated. And oftentimes it will even cause us to begin to question God. The last thing I put here, the last thing in this definition was with suffering. Suffering is a part of our process, and I'm not going to get down into that on tonight. But can you go through these three things without getting upset, without getting angry, without wavering, without throwing in the towel, without saying, God, you're not going to do what you said you were going to do. God, I thought you told me that it was going to be this, and this. And one thing that we know about God is when God speaks into our lives, what God has said of us, what God has said that we will be, what God has said that we will have, what He has promised to us, we can bank on that. We know that we can have those things. And so in saying that on tonight, one of the things that we need patience, because we have to be able to go through those processes. Sometimes God has given us a figment. He's given us a glimmer of what our future looks like. But just because He's given us a glimmer of it, He's not giving us a glimmer of it to say that today I give you a glimmer and tomorrow you walk into it. He's saying that even in your walking into wars, you're going to be walking through a process. I'm going to be preparing you. I'm going to be growing you. I'm going to be maturing you. I'm going to be getting you ready for this thing. And if you lack the very patience that it takes to get you there, then you may walk into a place prematurely. You may actually put yourself in a situation that will be detrimental to you. I put here, can we have patience? And the opposite of patience is us throwing temper tantrums when things don't go our way in life. We talk about the terrible twos that young kids have, but I believe that adults have temper tantrums too, because when adults don't get things when they want it, how they want it, the way they want it, we throw temper tantrums. We lash out at people. We lash out at God. We lash out at our own selves because things are not going the way that we want them to. And so we throw these temper tantrums. And I put the next thing I put here is our failure to exercise patience dominoes in our life. So if we're not able to exercise patience, the key word there is exercise. If we're not able to exercise patience, it causes a domino effect in our life. And so when you think about exercise, I was exercising this morning and from a long time of not exercising. And one of the things that I reminded myself when I started to feel the burn, I was like, well, this is your muscles crying out that you have not been using in a while. And they're saying, okay, we're not being used to being used in this capacity. But do I listen to those muscles that are crying, or do I say, okay, well, I'm getting you in gear. I'm getting you to a place. Well, it's the same way with our habitual selves. If we're habitually in a mindset of when I want something, I get it. If we're habitually in a mindset of not waiting, if we're habitually in a mindset that I'm going to do what it takes to get to that thing, then it's going to be very hard when we begin to try to exercise the patience that God has admonished us to exercise. Because guess what? Our habitual selves are going to cry out and say, hey, I'm not used to waiting. I'm not you. When something goes wrong, I'm used to kicking in action and figuring this thing out. I'm used to being the one that solves it. I'm used to the one that finds a solution. But what if God just wants you to sit and wait and listen and hear for His instructions? I used to be one of those people that, hey, whenever something came up, I shifted right into gear. I shifted right into, okay, what is it that I can do? I got to get this fixed. I got to get this done. I got to get this. But as I've matured in life, I've learned to step back and exercise patience. I've learned to step back and lay the smallest things before God and ask God which way to go, especially if it's a situation where I have no clue where to go, because all I'm going to be doing is like spinning my wheels. And I've learned to sit back and say, okay, God, what is it that I'm not seeing? What is it that I'm not hearing? What is it that I need to hear in this moment? Sometimes those responses come instantly, but sometimes it takes a little bit longer. But I have to exercise patience and trust the process. Trust that I'm going to hear from Him. Trust that I'm going to hear His instructions, because He told me that I could, and He told me that I would be able to get an answer. And that's the same thing I want to encourage you all on tonight, is to exercise patience in your life. Because the thing about it is, when God works something out in your life, He works it out for the best for you. But oftentimes when we step in and we work it out because we don't have enough patience to wait, we cause the domino effect, which affects so many other parts of our life. And so the next thing I put here is that patience is powerful for many reasons. The first one I put here is because it's preventive. I believe that patience is damage control. I believe that if we exercise more patience, we would not find ourselves in situations. It takes us less time to get into stuff, into items. So let's just say you make a decision or you make a move and you don't really wait to hear from God. You don't really wait to hear a response. You've got that I want it now mentality, and you jump over into something without waiting, without hearing, without getting that confirmation. And so you just go on ahead, and because you say, I want it now. I want to do it now, God. I want to be in this right now. And you get yourself in that process. And I always think about, it's quick for us to jump into something, but it takes patience to get us out. Because the funny thing about it is, when we get ourselves into situations and scenarios but where we were not patient and we just jumped into something, or we were trying to make something happen on our own, and maybe sometimes it did happen, but we found out when we got in that thing that we should have exercised patience. Have you ever thought about the fact that it's patience that you have to utilize to get you out? Because you have to wait on God to get you out of that thing. You have to wait on God to deliver you. You have to wait on God to give you the solution. So wouldn't it have been more beneficial if you had waited at the very beginning than getting yourself into something that now I've got to wait on God to get me out of, because it still requires patience. The next thing I put here is that patience is maturing, and this means that it promotes growth. Because as we work through patience, there's a portion in the Bible that says, let patience have its perfect work. When patience has worked in us, it matures us. It leaves us lacking nothing. We grow spiritually. We grow in our mindsets. And oftentimes when we come out of that place, the very thing that we were being so antsy about, the very thing that we were throwing the temper tantrum about, the very thing that we felt like we just had to have, there's something in life that we figure out, I didn't really need that. I don't really want that. That really has nothing to do with where I'm going. That has nothing to do with my true desires. That has nothing to do with who I really am. And so the next thing I put here is that it's a part of our process, but it helps us in self-discovery. Patience, whether you know it or not, it helps you to discover yourself, because patience is something that takes time. It's something that is tested. It's something that has to go through something in order for you to produce that patience. You got to kind of go through something that you would have to wait on. You've got to go through something that you've got to wait on God on. You got to go through something that is going to produce a portion of your character that you're going to know how to wait. You're going to know how to just stand. You're going to know how to just stand firm on your faith, believing that God is going to respond in the situations that you're looking for. You're going to know how to stand firm in the processes of your life. And so you're going to get to know a lot about you. Because instead of having that mindset of how am I going to do that, how I'm going to do that, how I'm going to do it, while you're waiting, you're praying. While you're waiting, you're communing God. While you're waiting, you're worshiping, you're praising. You're putting your mindset on other things. Because while I'm waiting, I'm still doing something, but I'm not antsy about the thing that it is that I'm usually antsy about. The next thing I put here, we find out what really matters in life to us when we exercise patience. Have you ever went to buy something that you thought you just had to have? And I wish I had pulled up this lady's name, but she actually just came to my mind. But it's a lady that teaches how to purge. She goes into houses and she teaches people how to purge and to find things that people that really buy a lot of things, or they just maybe collected a lot of items. And she always says, when you get ready to get something, that you touch the item, that you look at it, that you feel it, you see what it means to you. You see if there's any feelings that come behind it, does it have any meaning to you? And by the time you do all that, most of the time you're going to find that the very thing that you thought that you needed, the very thing that you thought that you wanted, you're going to find out it doesn't have that much value in your life. But the beautiful part about this is it helps you to figure out what matters to you. It helps you to understand who you really are at the core. I know for me, I share with people a lot of times. I do a lot of purging now, but that hasn't always been in my character trait. When God began to develop things in me, I was just telling him thank you on the other day, because I was saying to myself, it is amazing how God is in the smallest of details of our life. Because while he was maturing me on one side, he was maturing me in areas that I was like, God, I didn't even ask you to touch that, but okay, thank you anyway. And so one of the things that I do now that I haven't always done is I purge a lot. I get rid of things that I'm not using. I get rid of things that, they don't mean as much to me. And I feel decluttered. I feel like my life is not cluttered in places. I feel like I have the things that I need. And I don't have a desire to just go get things like I used to in the past. And so patience has produced that in me, because now when I want something, I don't feel like I gotta have it now. I feel like, let's wait a while. Let's see how I really feel about it. Let's see if I really need that, if I really desire that, if I really want that. If I keep going back to it, it probably really does mean that it's something I want. And it may be a trait that you can use in your life that can help you declutter, that can help you learn how to exercise that patience and things. And the final thing that I put here that patience will do, and why it's so powerful, is because it will teach us to trust God. No matter what the situation is, whether it's a situation that's this high or is one this small, it will teach us to trust God in all things in our life. Patience will say, and most when we trials, we heard in from the Bible that trials work of patience. When we're in the midst of our trials, if you're going to get through that thing, the best way to get through that thing is trusting God, standing on faith, knowing, trusting, believing that no matter what comes in the midst of this, that He's going to bring me out and that He's going to bring me through. And so as you keep doing that, you're learning, you're working patience, you're developing patience, you're developing the ability to be able to wait longer. You're developing the ability that when trials come, when troubles comes, when suffering comes, when things come that are unexpected, you have the patience to say, God, I know that you're going to deliver me out of this. I know that you're going to get me through this. I know that you're going to carry me through this, no matter how long the process may be. I know that I'm going to be all right in the end. And so patience helps us to develop that level of faith, that trust in God. And so I put here the same patience that is used to build to wait will build you and fuel you to keep going. I'm going to say that again. The same patience used to wait, to cause you to wait, will build you and fuel you and keep you going. So what I'm saying here is that very same patience that I'm encouraging us to get into our character, to get into just our daily life, that same patience that we need to utilize to wait, to hear the instructions, to see if the thing that we're really going after to matter, the same patience that will help us to rest more instead of killing ourselves, trying to always go after things to make things happen. Believe me, what God said that will occur in your life is going to happen. Now, I'm not telling you to sit in a seat of do nothing, but I'm also telling you to trust God to teach you the balance that you need in your life to get towards the things that you are getting to. I always say it's of no sense to actually go out and work and work and work. And I'm not talking about just work on the job, but whatever you're going after, to go after that gun thing, go after that thing, go after that thing. Then you get to it and you really can't enjoy it because you haven't really went through your process with patience. And so you worn yourself out, you worn your mind out, you worn all your faculties out. So it really doesn't make no sense, but God can show you how to go through that process and get through that process with patience to the point that you will enjoy it. Not only will you see it manifested, but you will enjoy it. So that same patience that you use to wait, that patience has dual purposes. It will also build you. It will also build that faith in you. And it will also be enough fuel to keep going. Because when I'm in the midst of something and my faith says that God's got me, my faith says that God's going to get me through, that patience that helps me to make it through that process and to keep going without getting angry, without getting upset, without kicking and screaming. When that happens, when I have that same level of patience, it helps me. It gets the very fuel I need to keep going. It's a very good energy. It's a good energy that you need in the midst of probably some very, very dark situations. And so the last thing I put here, we've heard that patience is a virtue. And I didn't write down the poem, but that actually came from a poem that was a Christian poem that was built off of showing the different characteristics of a person that was a believer versus not a believer. And so patience as a virtue was used in contrast to anger. So if you had patience, you wouldn't anger easily. Or if you anger easily, you likely did not have patience. So when we think about virtue, I put this post up earlier. When we think about virtue, this is the moral standard of a person. This is the character trait of a person. And I pray that each of us can learn how to allow that to be a part of our character. Even in our ability to show love for one another, it takes patience in dealing with one another. It takes patience to deal with different attitudes, different mindsets, different things coming your way in order for you to be able to show that love. So you can see that the power of patience goes from our individual lives and extends all the way out. It's so important in our lives. And I pray that you will allow God through your walk, through your process, as he takes you through the different channels in life. I pray that you will allow God to build this character trait in you, because it is going to be so beneficial, and it is so powerful to your character. It's so powerful to the standard for yourself that you be a patient person. So that's my prayer for us this week. I usually end and say I want you to try to do this, but I'm going to be praying for the IL family, that patience will have her perfect work in our lives. I hope that you've enjoyed this on tonight, and that you'll come back with me next week as we have another conversation about positive living via simple truths. Have a good night.